Shade. The sheer amount of shade cast in Activision's direction by Bungie last night was just incredible. Why? Well, it's time to talk about what Bungie's departure from Activision Blizzard actually means.
Bungie's gone truly independent and is in complete control of Destiny's future. We're publishing the game now. We're an independent company. Is now what? What's the plan? Where are we headed?
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another industry report. So, Bungie recently unveiled their next major expansion for Destiny 2. It's called Shadowkeep, and what's almost more interesting about this is that it also sets out their next year of content, with it actually being the first year that they have planned themselves since their split with Activision. There's a lot that we can read into this, and indeed, a lot that Bungie have said, some of it pretty darn snarky.
Look in the first-party stores, there's like 9 different versions of the game. You need like some kind of decoder ring to figure out what you're supposed to purchase.
Also, we're about to hit E3. This is all part of the E3 cycle, so today there will be 3 videos on this channel, so be sure to subscribe. There's a lot of content coming out over the coming days, and with that, let's get into the video. So, Bungie now has complete rights to the Destiny franchise. This is fantastic news for the company, with the only downside really being that they sort of have fewer development resources because Activision support studios like Vicarious Visions are, of course, no longer going to be assisting on D2 development as they had been in the past. But still, what will become pretty darn clear is that Activision brought with them many downsides indeed. And perhaps the most interesting thing about Bungie's stream is just how they constantly dunked on Activision. So we'll kick today's video off with talking about the new Destiny format that is supposedly enabled by Bungie's new freedom. Then we'll cover what Activision seems to have meant for Bungie, and after that, we will cover the future outlook for Destiny and the contents of the Shadowkeep expansion. So in their stream, Bungie pretty much framed the future of Destiny as having 3 pillars: MMO, Evolving World, and Play Anywhere. These are the things that will define the future direction of the game.
Being an awesome action MMO. And
Yeah, we've been worried about that term for a long time. We've shied away from using
MMO.
that. Yeah, because it comes with a lot of baggage. It's like, does that mean it's a subscription game, or you got to play with a mouse and keyboard, or whatever? But like, man, this is one of those things. We're on our own now, and it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck. It's a duck. Like we can accept the fact that this is what the game
There's
is.
like duck emojis out in the chat right now.
They said if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, then it's a duck, it's an MMO. And for them, what MMO means is deeper character customization, meaning future updates to the game are actually going to be deepening the game's itemization and giving players more control over their builds. It also, of course, means social, and they say they're going to be looking to greatly improve the game's social aspects in the future. As for single world, that essentially means having deeper zones that can evolve over time with updates and have more of a community focus on them, with them referencing the more recent sort of mysterious content of the Dreaming City as something that they're pretty happy with, especially with how it can bring the community together. And actually, Luke Smith mentioned the opening of the gates of Anchorage from World of Warcraft, vanilla World of Warcraft, as a major inspiration, which is certainly quite cool to hear. And then as for the Play Anywhere pillar, well, that means a few things. First, Stadia. They also did announce Stadia. Stadia will open up Destiny 2 to anyone who has a screen, with the full Destiny 2 experience being bundled with Google's premium Stadia subscription service. Then for PC gamers, it also means that we will be able to get Destiny through Steam, and that Battle.net users will be able to transfer their accounts over to Steam for free. The future content of the game is going to be exclusively on Steam, which I do find kind of interesting. I'd say the chances are that the Steam integration required a decent level of collaboration between the companies, so I suppose that makes sense, and I'm guessing that the Battle.net version will be sort of sunsetted or something like that. This pillar also means cross-save, meaning that if you own Destiny 2 on a platform, then you can play your character on that platform. So your PC character, you could open up on the PS4 version. Now, while rumors initially were that Sony had opted out of this, they actually did announce PS4 as a cross-save option, with it later coming out that Sony agreed to crossplay the day before Bungie's stream. Certainly is a fast-moving time for gaming news, I'll say that much. Now, as a part of this new direction for the game, they are again changing the business model, and they're changing it entirely. with them, as they were announcing their new business model, just throwing heaps of shade on Activision, talking about how Activision dictated content and business model and a whole bunch of stuff. So Destiny 2 New Light is the new base version of the game, and New Light is free to play. Players will start off with a 15-minute introductory mission before being sent to the tower, which is the main hub. You'll start at around light level 750, with their idea being that it will remove barriers between new players and old players. A new player can jump into endgame content with their friends basically in about 15 minutes time. They made it very clear that endgame is the game, and considering what Destiny is, I think that is the right move. New Light is going to give people access to all of the match-made instanced content, all of the Year 1 Destiny campaigns, and all of the outdoor content, like say the public events and the Lost Sectors. Now, if you want to play the Forsaken campaign and the Forsaken raid, or the equivalent stuff for Shadowkeep, then you will have to pay for that. But overall though, it does seem remarkably fair. Overall, massively reducing the game's barrier to entry. Now, they're also revamping the rest of their business model, so they are going to be continuing along the idea of the current seasonal model, but with a lot of changes to how you pay for it. So each season is going to be an individual purchase, and there will be no season pass. They basically think that a problem right now is that if somebody wants to experience the Season of Opulence content update, which is the current one, well, they have to purchase that whole year's season pass, which is going to include the prior seasons like Drifter and Black Armory. Now, if somebody did not play Drifter or Black Armory because they didn't like the look of it, then it's going to feel terrible forking out for the full season pass, and there's no a la carte option, so they're just doing it a la carte on a per season basis. So overall, this means that they have pretty much fixed one of the major problems that the game faced. This year's content, honestly, as a sort of casual player, it was pretty darn brilliant. It greatly improved the game, but between the upfront cost of Destiny 2 itself, the cost of the Forsaken expansion, and of the season pass, the barrier to entry was just a little bit absurd. This new model will allow them to regain players, which is super important, and the nice thing about the new seasonal purchase model is that, the seasonal raids will cost money and stuff like that, but any new open world content from the seasons, any of the match-made content, that will be available to players of the base game via New Light. So overall, it just seems way better, and it seems like this could be a massive shot in the arm for Destiny. And that brings us on to Activision. What's wild is we don't even have to read in between the lines to infer what Activision forced on them. Bungie pretty much just said what Activision forced on them. They said that the business model of Destiny, the content plan, the cadence, that was all Activision, with Bungie supposedly not having much control there. All those massive upfront costs to playing the game, apparently it seems like Bungie didn't really want that, and that was on Activision. It seems like New Light, their free-to-play model, just would not be possible while still under Activision's control. Activision seemingly were pretty big into the upfront purchases, as evidenced by most of their lineup. I mean, look at the Call of Duty franchise, still a, big upfront purchase even for the Battle Royale, just that of course, as I covered in yesterday's report, they're also adding free-to-play, almost pay-to-win business models to their buy-to-play titles, which is pretty darn disgusting and one of the reasons why people do not like Activision Blizzard that much. Now, moving on, cross-save is apparently something that's only possible now that they've left Activision, and the same goes for Steam. Now, of course, in Steam that makes sense. Why would Activision sell on Steam for a 70% cut when they could get 100% on Battle.net, and also benefit from World of Warcraft Gold purchases, which do carry a tasty, tasty premium indeed. Then apparently shying away from MMO as a term, that was apparently another Activision thing, which is pretty odd considering how strong that genre has been for Activision. But basically the core message was freedom. They talked about how they're in control of their destiny, how the only people who now steer Destiny are them and their players. It's hard to overstate just how consistently they jabbed at Activision. Reportedly, when the split was confirmed, there was actually cheering in the Bungie offices, so it's clear that even the rank-and-file employees were not happy with the Activision situation. Now that said, blaming all the problems on Activision, that is a very sound play here, and we cannot ignore that many of the franchise's problems are actually down to Bungie themselves. Just look at the Martin O'Donnell case as another example of Bungie clearly bungling stuff up. I guess I'd be interested to see how connected the D1 and D2 mid-development reboots are to Activision, and how connected the simplification of the systems in Destiny 2 are to Activision, or if that was Bungie's decision. It's hard to know. But moving forward, it does seem like they're moving in a different direction. They're instead taking a more systemic, endgame-focused approach that is taking into account how the game is actually played. So, Speaking of which, let's talk about the Shadowkeep expansion. So Shadowkeep is the next expansion to Destiny 2. It is going to launch alongside Destiny 2 New Light, the free-to-play overhaul. Shadowkeep will be exclusively available on Steam on the PC, meaning that BNet players will have to migrate their accounts over. The Steam page is actually live right now with a $34.99 price point. The base version of the game for $34.99 includes Shadowkeep and 1 season pass, with the digital deluxe version coming with 4 season passes, i.e. the entire of the next year of Destiny. They will, of course, allow you to purchase each season separately, though, and we'll just have to wait and see what the pricing is like there and if it's actually a good deal as compared to the current season. Now, the expansion brings us back to the moon. It's a prominent location from Destiny 1. We face a sort of new enemy that, like with the Taken, is a remix of old enemies, including powerful ones like Crota. They say they're leaning far more into horror and the idea that it's like the remixed shadows of old enemies, that they're the people that we face. There are going to be new missions, new quests, the moon will be there, there'll be a new dungeon, a new sets of gear, a new raid, plus a bunch more, with us presumably finding out more details as time goes on. They very much are reusing assets here quite heavily, and they did actually admit that on their stream, both the moon location and the enemies. And when pressed on this by the YouTuber who was hosting the Q&A, Luke Smith said that they're more than okay with bringing back past locations, pretty much saying that it gives them an opportunity to remix them and redefine how players engage with them. This essentially would open up Destiny 1 locations for a similar treatment, and indeed we see Destiny 1's Cosmodrome also being used as the starting mission for New Light. Now, yeah, this is almost certainly a massive cost-saving measure, but let's be honest, as long as the gameplay is good and the changes are meaningful, I can't say I mind all that much, especially for a gameplay and systems-driven game like Destiny. Now, this could backfire, and if they consistently are only just reusing assets, that would not be good. But fundamentally, I'm not against going back to the moon and them totally changing up the moon. Of course, we'll have to wait and see if it's actually good. Now, that said, a part of this does make sense. While Bungie have said that they spent the last year reworking their studio to be able to handle Destiny solo, it is true that they have lost support of the Activision support studios. But still, Destiny 2 will win by deepening itself as an RPG. Doing that a lot more, well, that would make up for a little bit of reused content, but we will just have to see how things go, and I'll withhold opinion on this expansion until I can actually review it. Then finally, to round things off, they overall are going to be keeping the seasonal model going, using their seasons to continuously add more content to the game and beef up its systems. In Shadowkeep, players are actually going to get an artifact. This will be an upgradable item with a whole bunch of options, so essentially it's just another progression track and another avenue to customize your character's build, which is very much in line with their broad goals for Destiny 2 moving forward, and it seems like a pretty good thing. So yeah, it seems great. Past that, they also mentioned cleaning up their PvP playlists for the next season, and that's going to be them laying the foundations for larger future PvP improvements, because they do agree that PvP hasn't seen much love. And they did say that, look, if you don't feel like purchasing the next season for the sort of small PvP changes, but you want to purchase the one after that for the actual PvP changes, then that's something they want their new business model to be able to support. So really, for now, that pretty much is it. Overall, I just think this is a very interesting example of a studio breaking away from its publisher, then moving on to self-publish its game, and us being able to directly, seemingly anyway, directly see how this all impacts their business model and their communication strategy with their players. Overall, Year 3 seems to have the right idea, with New Light really being what D2 will have needed to regain players. It's especially good because being able to play most of the endgame for free within 15 minutes, well, that is great for getting friends to play the game, and especially getting them to play the part of the game that actually matters, instead of going through the really boring, laborious campaigns of Destiny. So overall, it's good to hear. I wish them the best, and there's a very high chance I will review Shadowkeep on this channel. Be tuned to the channel for 2 more videos today, likely one tomorrow, and then loads of content as E3 rolls out. It's a very exciting time, so I hope you join up and we can all experience it together. Let me know what you're excited for. Let me know if this has you interested in Destiny 2 again. And with that, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.